Hello.
Sorry for the delayed start. So I'm going to be talking to you about going it alone, about setting it up on your own, about launching your own company or going freelance. I suppose I'm going to be arguing that from my mindset, going freelance or setting up on your own, they're part of the same path, they're sort of part of the same journey. It's all getting to the bit where you are doing whatever it is you do, but from your own, with yourself as a starting point rather than having a boss. A little bit about me, I guess. I'd say my name's Maurice McLeod, so I should start with that, shouldn't I? My name's Maurice McLeod. I've been a journalist for about 25 years, and I've written for most publications, most vaguely leftist publications, I should say. So I've written for.
That's a good caveat. you can flick to the side.
Brilliant, okay? Nice one. Okay. So personally, I've written for The Guardian. I still do. The Independent, Sunday Times, HuffPo, you name it, Evening Standard, etc., etc., etc. Probably about 15 years ago, after about 10, 12 years working on Fleet Street. So as a journalist, are any of you doing media, or are you all sort of PR, advertising, all the industries that actually earn money?
Everyone's positioned in the media department.
Okay, brilliant.
Helps.
Yeah, no, that's useful. Yeah, okay. So certainly back then, and I think still now, as a journalist, your sort of aim is to get onto Fleet Street. That's the big papers. That's where you want to be. That's where you get your name in lights. Myself and a colleague who both worked at a newspaper called The Voice, which is a black newspaper down in South London. We're both working on various bits of the media. I was working on the Daily Express, and he was working at ITN. He's a lecturer here, actually, Tony Snow. I don't know if any of you guys.
Some of them
have. Yeah. So we were kind of moaning to each other about our, this is supposed to be the Holy Grail. We're on the Nationals and it's horrible. They're treating us badly. The work's awful. The pay's terrible. And for me, it was Tony saying, well, why don't we just do something on our own? Why don't we just set up? And if I'm honest, we had no idea what that something would be, other than that we had skills as journalists and we were just going to try and wing it. This is exactly how you don't set up a business. This is a blueprint for how to get things wrong. So Tony and I kind of set up. We wrote a business plan. It was all about being a news agency, but for black news. It was all very saying things that we thought would tick boxes and get people to go, oh yeah, they sound interesting. We got an office. We hired staff. And then for the first sort of 6 months, we sat around looking at each other and playing keepy-uppies with football in the office, working out why we'd done this, what were we doing, how were we ever going to make any money from this sort of randomish idea. What I'll talk you through in a bit is about having a bit more of an idea and a bit more structure. I think there's things that you race into when setting up on your own, and the things that excite people when setting up on your own are the branding, the website, all the things that are about you are the bits that you're interested in, whereas when in hindsight the bits that matter are making sure the maths work, which is really boring, but making sure that you're actually bringing in the money to cover the things that you're doing. That sounds so obvious, but the amount of times I'll sit down with someone who started up a new business, or even just freelance, and you sort of add it all up and you go, hang on, but you're paying X for this and you're only charging Y for it, and you've not put in any time for your own input. You're sort of assuming that you're working for free just because you're not charging yourself, so you're assuming you're working for free, you're not valuing your time. And before you know it, it's the whole thing isn't viable. Even if it's going well, someone's getting into debt. That's an ill thought out company. But they've often got a really shiny, lovely website with brilliant copy that looks wonderful. Those are the bits that, especially as communicators, because that's what you are if you work in media, especially as communicators, we want to get onto that bit because that's what we do. We want to talk about how great the company is. We want to do our elevator pitch, and we want to work on our brand and all that really, really fun stuff. without actually really doing the, what am I charging, who am I charging for it, what, you know, will they pay that, what do I need to, what's my survival budget, what's my break even, all the sort of boring stuff that you maybe want to bring someone else in for. I feel like you do have to have an understanding of that, those. Now that I've got PowerPoint working, what I'll do is I'll of the people who are working in media, who already thinks that that's what they're going to do. They're already going to be freelance. They're already going to be working on their own.
Quite a few of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. And are any of you already doing it? Already actually generating an income of some description, or is it early doors? You're actually generating already. Nice. Yeah. Good. Okay. Cool. Well, I'll maybe take some lessons from you. But okay. So when it comes to, and again, some of this stuff will be really obvious, and I think that if you're all on a sort of media course, you're all likely to be doing the same sorts of things. I'm thinking, when you do you mind me asking what your company does? Does it do what you're learning?
E-commerce and social media marketing mostly.
Okay, is that what you're studying here?
I'm studying advertising PR.
Okay, so there's a connection.
Correlation, yeah, there is, but
they fit
it's
together.
more like an additional something that you go out and just learn it on your own.
You're upskilling, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I imagine a lot of you, well, almost my advice to you, to be honest, unless you've got unless you've got something that works already, that from the get-go is going to be lucrative and is going to be generating you stuff. To me, the most pleasurable way of working on your own is when you've already got a gig, but you're sort of doing some freelance. That to me is the easiest way to be doing stuff on your own, because you're not hopefully absolutely dependent on that freelance work generating you cash. Whereas at the same time you've got a salary, you've got some money coming in, you've got something to cover some bills. And I always see it as you're kind of learning on someone else's dollar, which, hey, who doesn't want to do that? So instead of I mean, if you have to, and you sort of just jump out and you're doing things completely off the bat from square one, then good for you. But I think it's a much tougher way to go. So when you're setting up, yeah, the most obvious thing is what will your company be doing? What service? What product? And I think of those two things as interchangeable. I think that as mainly, I would imagine you're going to be service providers. I don't, unless the company you're thinking of setting up is going to have a distinct product, you're going to be a service provider. I'm thinking. Is anyone in the room not thinking of that? Is anyone thinking of some sort of product-based business?
I can think of one.
You can argue yours is sort of
About long term.
yeah, sure.
I think there's one in the room that might have some product as an idea. Ben, have you got a product as an idea? You're thinking about a product that you might try to
I was thinking about a product, but then I changed it around to basically a gaming agency for professional gamers, and also for the companies to build like a better relationship. Because for example, if you have FIFA, the problem with EA Sports is just that they do nearly no real communication to their player base.
Right.
So what you would need, for example, to improve it, and for example, to build a proper professional area in esports, you would need better communication. So this way, it would help a lot to build up a better relationship to their customers, to EA Sports customers, and also from the other way around. So you would basically be like I was also thinking about that would be one of the three aspects of the company. The other aspect would be primarily being an agent to the professional players.
Okay.
So for example, you have top 100 players, or you have in Fortnite professional players, which you are managing, and so this kind of area. So just to build up a relationship between them and such.
So Ben, you're ready for Dragon's Den, aren't you?
I reckon I would.
I mean, yeah, that's a pretty
There you
developed
go. I know,
business
right?
idea. That's not like, oh, I'm going to be doing something. Yeah, that's quite specific, and yeah. So it's a world I know nothing about, but yeah. It's
But you are right though, so mostly services.
yeah, so mostly service. So, like I was saying before, I think that one of the glory of being a service-based industry is that it's based on skills that you have or that you're bringing in. That's great. I mean, one of the dangers is because it's you as individuals who, for me, I guess my first sort of business was when I was a freelance writer. So I'd go to whoever, the Guardian, and go, hey, I've got this story. They'd go, yeah, they pay me some money, I'd write the story. Fairly straightforward. In my mind, I got £100 for that. That's brilliant. What I would never be taken into account is, but I also took half a day to write that and half a day to pitch it to them, and or whatever. That's a day's worth of time. So if I'm saying £100 for that bit of work is good, and to be honest, I would do it anyway because it's the Guardian, it's worth getting my name out there, and yada yada. It's kind of, there are other benefits than £100, and it's good having that relationship with a national paper. But I need to ask myself: is my time is my day rate more than £100 a day? And if I want to, go on the occasional holiday, then it has to be. £100 wouldn't be enough for me to price out my day at. So if all I'm earning is that £100, I need to honestly think, okay, is this viable? But like I say, with something like pitching an article to a national newspaper, and being in the industry that we're in, I feel like it was worth it because from that, I get 3 or 4 other media appearances. Someone else approaches me about writing something. And I keep in with a decent publication that it's good to be able to sell stories to. So there are other bonuses beyond the pay, but there are other minuses. There are other minuses than the cost, if you see what I mean. So it's not so. I think that's one of the dangers with the service industry is you forget your value, you forget your time. I'll come on to this a bit more. I mean, just from experience, I know people that run training businesses, for instance, and it's brilliant. They earn a fortune, like eye-watering amounts of money. But it's
Sorry, Tony, what was that training? Do you say?
so yeah, training companies. So they'll go to corporates, for instance, and do communications training.
Right, got you.
So it's stuff like they'll go in and talk to the board at McDonald's about how to do better presentations, or and yeah, the amount she's invoicing is scary. It's sort of £5,000, £8,000 a day type amounts of money. I'm like, wow, that'll do. I can get going. I can keep going on that. But the downside, and I'm sure she would admit this now, the downside is that it all absolutely relies on her being in a place at a specific time to do the training. She does the prep, she does the training, she's the face of the company, she does the admin, she does everything. And while it's been, again, I say it's been very lucrative. She's bought a house that's worth about £1.5 million on the back of her own company. That's brilliant. She's also on the verge of exhaustion. She can't think of any other way now of running the company other than her physically being, because she's so the company and the brand and the idea of it and even how she dresses, it's all so much part of what she does. It makes her feel, I've sat with her and it makes her feel ill to think of getting someone else to do that. When I say, can't you find some other trainers, then you can get them doing training under your brand, and she's like, I couldn't have anyone on my brand. No, it's really important to me. It's myself. It's my internal thing. I think that's. I get it, and it's hard to say to someone that is successful, because that's a successful company, that you're not quite doing it right. But it's going to end in illness or breakdown. It really is. You can't. I mean, she's working 4, 5, 6 days a week, and she's preparing on the others. And this is a good 10 years into her company being up and being successful and running. So, well, I guess one of the things, what I'm saying is remember that it's not. Try to, as much as it is you, and as much as you're the person running the company, and you're often the person that people are buying into, they're buying into your skills and whatever. But think of ways, even from the very beginning, that this doesn't all need to rely on me. It's find ways to be able to distance yourself from it. So in terms of what your company does, as we said, most of you here we're talking about services. That's fine. So I'm going to be providing consultancy. I'm going to be providing advice on how you market to this audience or that audience, whatever it might be. It's a specific service for which hopefully you'll have a set day rate, and you'll say, and even if so with my day rates, for instance, I know that you have to be really flexible because different clients in front of you have different abilities to pay, and also there's different motivation for you to get involved with different types of clients. So, as an example, I got approached to help promote a new juice. So I don't really do PR, if I'm honest. I'm a journalist, and I'm still from an era where there was a bit more of a journalist PR divide, in that journalists often think of themselves as, hey, we write the stuff and we're objective and we're beyond reproach, whereas PRs are trying to get them to promote their thing. So there's always been a bit of a PR journalist divide, and I feel like I fall on the journalist side, although PR's where the cash is, if I'm honest. So I find.
Tony, sorry, it's not Tony. Maurice, blimey. So are you saying though that there's no line now? There's no real distinction?
I still think there is a line. I still think there's a line between PR. I mean, there's a line to me in terms of function, in terms of what you're doing. So I don't actually call myself a journalist. If someone says, "What do you do?" I say I'm a writer. I feel like I was a journalist. So when I was working on the Express, when I was going out, interviewing people, trying to find things out, getting stories, to me that's journalism. Writing, which is what I do now more for the papers, is the Guardian phones up and goes, I'm trying to think of an example. Oprah Winfrey wasn't allowed to buy a bag when she was in Switzerland because she's black. Can you give us a comment piece on that? And I go, isn't this terrible? Sometimes when you travel, this sort of thing happens. Blur. That's fine, and it's easy, to be honest, but it's not journalism in my mind.
Yeah.
Whereas,
because we do have a room with journalists and people from PR, so I think it's really important to point this out.
Yeah.
Just because I agree there should still be this distinction, but I think those roles are blurring. It's not always ethical. It's a problem. But so we see more content being written by people from PR.
Absolutely.
And being passed off as journalism. So
absolutely.
That's happening more and more.
Yeah, and that's, to be honest, that's been a growing thing. I can't remember the guy's book, but you guys have probably read it as part of your course. Journalism, yeah, with that whole idea. Even when I worked on the Daily Express for 6 years. If you know the paper, I think it's a pretty appalling paper. I joined when it was pretending it was going to be a left-wing version of itself, and then it really quickly gave up on that. Anyway, so I found myself stuck at the Daily Express, and when I started, there was maybe I was on the news desk rather than a newsroom. So I was on a news desk as one of the editors and whatever. But in the newsroom, there were maybe 8 journalists of a morning, all sort of writing stuff and getting on with it. I was there for 6 years. By the time I left, there would have been about 3 or 4, and this is 10 years ago. So I don't. So the same. And when I was coming in, the older journalists were like, oh, back in the day we used to write 1 story a week. We'd spend a lot of time in the pub. We'd get facts. We'd gather stuff. There was no internet. Things used to. There is actually a campaign now for slow journalism, which is about that. It's about properly building stories and doing that kind of work. By the time I left, like I say, there were a handful of journalists doing the same amount, and probably writing for the website too. Now there's even fewer. So what happens is a piece comes in from a PR agency, no doubt, saying, wonderful new beans launched in Battersea. And all you get told by the editor is, "Oh, tickle that up." So you top and tail it. You maybe slightly DPR it a tiny bit, but it's the same article. It's the same press release that's going to go out. So
so it is a worrying trend.
It's a very worrying trend, and to be honest, I think that I don't see how that turns around though. If I'm honest, I don't see how that. I'm here to talk about business, but I don't see how that sort of merging of the two things goes around. I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with going, I work in PR, I'm selling this computer, I'm going to tell you what's good about this computer, buy this computer. There's nothing wrong with that. I think there's something slightly wrong when I'm saying that and I'm presenting it as just general information that, hey, everyone needs to know about this computer because it's amazing, when actually I'm either being paid or, you know, when that relationship isn't quite as pure and honest as you're making out. My sense, and this is only maybe it's even a hope, is that the public won't go for that for very much longer. I think that it's something that you notice as a reader. I think that people are, your generation is a lot more savvy when it comes to reading stuff and going, yeah, where's that come from? What's this about? I don't think you can get away with just sort of pumping out a newspaper full of ads dressed up as articles, full of marketing dressed up as articles.
Advertorials, right?
Advertorials, indeed. Yeah. Anyway, sorry, I kind of.
Sorry, that was my fault.
No. It's a valid distinction, and by the way, I'm not disparaging PR at all. When I say I'm not, you know, I just think they're distinct, or they should be distinct industries, whereas they're in lots of ways they're just merging into one.
Yeah.
I have I'm PR, but I just have this feeling like journalism, if you're writing for a paper, there's already a perspective there. So it's not, you can have like 15 different perspectives on one story. I'm not saying that's basically PR, but you still have your, basically your perspective on a certain idea or what. It doesn't have to be a project, it can be a story. Yes. So I just feel like there's kind of been like this 360, and it's kind of come back to it, but it's more apparent now because of how PR's just taken kind of road.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's valid. I think that's valid on the. And I really believe this on the journalism being objective thing. That's just a myth. You know, I don't know how anyone ever thought that was the case. I mean, I have it with mates who aren't in the industry, and they go, "Oh, journalism, man, you're always trying to spin something. Why don't you just tell the facts as they are?" And I said, "Well, which facts? Who's deciding what the facts are? Who's deciding?" You know, I don't think there's any such thing as an objective journalist. I absolutely turn up to work with all of my prejudices, all of my experiences. Of course I have. I think what makes for a good newsroom is when you've got lots of people with lots of different prejudices, and they can, you know, then there's some kind of balance. Because there's no way that I'm sitting there writing objectively. Of course I'm taking perspectives in. I would argue the difference when it comes to specific PR is that someone somewhere is being paid to influence rather than giving a fair review of the facts as they see them. Someone's going, I've been paid to do this, and so that's the thing I'm gonna. You'll argue against me, and that's fine. Again. I kind of expected you to.
Again.
Yeah. So to me, there's slightly different. Yes, there are inputs into journalism or into. Yeah, but they the reason for them should be reasonably pure. I mean, that's that very. You're not buying that. Maybe I'll come back.
So just one question I have is basically PR. I look the journalism and writing communications part of PR as just one branch of PR, if that's fair to say, because I'm doing PR, but as I observe a lot of things in the industry, it's more like because a lot of people go out, they do briefings, they do interviews. Let's say if a company has a PR crisis, a PR executive or who's providing the service goes out, they do the briefings, they ask the hard questions, they tell them what to say to those questions in order to communicate an ongoing problem.
Yes.
So that is PR as well, but as I see, is just a very versatile, industry.
It's super versatile. I mean, let's be, if you're being sort of, I don't know, Darwinist about it, one of the two industries we're talking about is on the verge of starvation, while the other seems to be doing well. So if you're taking emotion out of it, PR will always exist. There's always going to be people, products, political parties, whatever, who have an interest in skewing slightly the view in their favour. That's always going to be the case, and there'll always be people that can pay for that. So that's an industry that can exist. Journalism still, and this has been the case. Like I said, I've been doing this for like 25 odd years now in total, and it's always been, oh, how does journalism survive? Is it going to survive by ads? Is it going to survive by advertorial? Is it subscription based? Is it this? Is it that? And it's I think journalism, because the intrinsic value of journalism is sharing you that knowledge. That should be the intrinsic value. Whereas the intrinsic value of PR, I think, is flexing the public's opinion on X, Y, or Z. So there's slightly different motivations, if you see what I mean. And one of them is more lucrative than the other. Until we find a way of journalism itself being, or people going, God, I really do need to know this thing, I'm going to pay for it, when you don't pay for anything else. I struggle to see how journalism survives without getting into bed with PR and all the other types of things that are linked to the industry.
Can I interject again?
Sorry,
Really
yeah.
sorry. But I'd like to make the point also that this relationship, this dynamic has existed for now centuries.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
This isn't a new thing.
Yeah.
Always been around.
But
And that reliance, that dependency that you're talking about,
yeah.
age old.
Absolutely. I think that I guess the difference, and then you're absolutely right, yeah. There's always been people trying to influence the public conversation for one reason or another. I suppose the difference now is journalism to me feels in some ways weaker in terms of the finance and the resources. I feel like it's not as robust as it used to be. And it's so for instance on the Express, so if you're if I'm producing a story and I've got to write about whatever this computer, and someone sends me a really well crafted piece, press release about this computer, they've done a big chunk of my work for them. So I might not swallow every argument in what they've sent over, but I'm going to use a lot of it because I'm under pressure and this has come through. Whereas before, I feel like I could have gone back to my editor and gone, I just need to go and interview a few people and find out what they thought. I want to talk to some technical experts and see if they think it's okay. We haven't got time for that now. I would argue.
I completely agree with you. We haven't actually got Nick Davies' book on the reading list for this module, but maybe should. So it's Flat Earth News. It's based on a study that came out of Cardiff University, and it was shown that 90% of news material in the UK comes from PR.
And that was,
And that
decade?
was 10 years ago.
Yeah, it's about a decade old. So that was then. I think that's more now. So it's like one industry's eating the other one. But again, I'm
going to shut now because I've got a lot to say.
No, these are all valid points. These are things that I think about a lot, if I'm honest. Okay, so your thing you're selling, and these are just things I think to be thinking about when you're setting up. So what do you have? What are you bringing? What are your skills? And I don't think they're always necessarily set answers to these. Why should a client pick you rather than someone else? Someone might go, I'm a writer. I can write features. I come up with good ideas. Why should they pick you over the other 10 billion potential writers out there? And there might not be a set reason. It might be, I'm good, but that person's good and that person's good. But I'm the person standing here right now. I'm the person pitching you this idea. So it's not. I wouldn't be too. There's nothing special about what I'm doing, therefore I shouldn't do it. I don't think that's the case. I just think you need to, if that's true, you need to be aware of that, and you're going to need to do more of the networking, more of the building of your circle type stuff that I think kind of is more important when it comes to the marketing of a business. These are all questions about what you'll be doing and how you'll be doing it. So I think that's supposed to be how will you. I was looking at that sort of penultimate one thing, and who will you? Oh no, who are you? So who are your clients? Who, if it's just again talking about journalism, it's just I'm only going to sell to national newspapers, then that's quite a finite group. which has pluses and minuses. You know, like with any marketing, if you can segment and go, right, I'm specifically looking for comment editors on national newspapers, in a way that's brilliant, because then you're only talking about, how many are there? 9, 10, whatever, 9, are there 9 national newspapers still? I don't even know. So you're only talking about 9 people. It's quite a small group that you need to schmooze in a way. Whereas if you're saying I'm selling, I don't know, everything to everyone, that's vast. Oh wow, I've got a massive I've got a massive range of targets. But unless you've focused in, unless you really know, okay, I'm going for this person in this job role, you know, you're kind of just scattergun. It's kind of spray and pray and hoping that if I send out, you know, something on Facebook and I pay for an ad and it goes to 20,000 people, yeah, one of those must want me, maybe, but chances are, you know, you're just sort of falling on stony ground. And so having a clearer, you know, building deeper relationships, I would say, especially with service industries, is better than building sort of scattergun type stuff. You might well get some work from someone, but I think to an extent you're just one of the others. You're just one of the emails in their inbox that doesn't really matter much to them. Kind of went on to marketing there, which I wasn't going to talk about. SWOT. So, I mean, you guys know about SWOT analysis, I assume?
So they've all done.
So you've done those with your So
a few weeks back.
it feels like often, especially when you're starting off, it feels like a bit of a, I'm comparing myself to existing people that are already out there. Isn't it doesn't feel useful, but just doing them. I hope you found when you do them, I find they reflect on what I'm trying to do, so it makes you think, yeah, why aren't I doing that? And why do they do this? And you know, am I just like them but a poor person's version? Is that why I am? Am I selling this but cheaper than them? You know, and if that's true, that can be true. If it is, then just be aware of it and own up to it. And do you know what I mean? Own it even within yourself. I don't mean put on it, I am a cheap version of Heinz baked beans. Don't necessarily say that, but if you are, then know that your market is Lidl and Aldi. Do you know what I mean? It just helps you focus your direction a little bit. And also, it's always good to know what competitors are after. We all sort of, especially once you launch, you all sort of disappear into your own, hopefully, obsession with your own company and your own services and your own stuff. It's really useful to be able to keep an eye on the industry. And I think when you're starting, it's probably one of the only times that you really have time for that. You know, unless things are going really badly and you're just sitting in an office with nothing to do. You know, it's the time when you really have got, oh, let me see what they're doing. Let me send them let me try and buy the same product from X, Y, or Z just to see how they deal with the customer service side of things, or what their price ranges are, or how often they come back to me once I've given them an email. All that kind of stuff is useful stuff to do, and I think you might struggle to do that when your company's thriving and running and the big money's coming in and you're all happy. Okay, so this is still for me. It's all a lot of this in the planning stage, and you could well be beyond that. I know some of you could well all be beyond planning and thinking, and you're pretty certain. But I still think it's worth making sure that you have at some point consider all these points. A lot of these are the things that we've already been discussing. So how you're going to provide consultancy, or you're going to provide articles, or you're going to provide marketing advice. How exactly does that work? How are you seeing that? Are you physically going to be in someone's office for a day helping them? Are you doing this digitally? What sort of advice are you going to be giving? Who's going to be coming up with this advice? Who's going to be doing the research? Can you run focus groups? Have you got access to an audience? All these sorts of details about the actual mechanics of how your company's going to run, or how your freelance agency is going to run. They all really need to be thought about. I think sometimes, again, because it's coming from us, because the service is just me turning up and doing my thing, it's easy not to think about some of those details. And there is value, I think, in working out what sort of person you are. So my business partner Tony, or my former business partner Tony, you know, even though we're both coming from the same industry, we're both journalists, we're both black, we're both, you know, actually he's from Birmingham, but you know, we're both living in London and being out and about. But he was very much more rock up to somewhere, listen to what they're saying, come up with some ideas, and winging it and bouncing stuff back. That fills me with fear. That's not me at all. I really want to know exactly what I'm doing. Why, you know, I really need to be, you know, clear of myself before I step into a room with people. I think that working together was actually really useful because I'd sometimes go, whoa, Tony, hang on, we're not going to rush in and do that yet because we haven't sat down and planned this, or we haven't sat down and planned that. And he'd sometimes go, mate, you're just staring at your navel, just get in there, go and talk to those people, we'll work it out. I think that the truth is probably a little bit between those two. I think you do need to be flexible. You know, most times when I've gone and met a new client and we're sitting down, you know, my thinking is always, okay, what is their problem, and how can I solve it? And often their problem will be something that I couldn't have imagined, that I didn't understand. I didn't know enough about their business, and so you do need a bit of flex and a bit of flexibility there. But I think you also need to know, okay, these are the core blocks that I have. These are the core blocks that I'm bringing. I'm bringing writing. I'm bringing this. I'm bringing that. I'm bringing that. Those are the things, and the solution is going to be crafted out of those in some way. So you kind of need, I would say, you need you need both, and I think you can never have too much input, and that sounds counterintuitive because people say, oh, too many cooks and all that, and that is true. But I think you should always be, whenever someone wants to sit down and tell you about your business, I go, yeah, tell me. You know, if it's criticism, you know, have broad shoulders and listen to it, because other people will spot things that you're not spotting, even if things seem to be going well. I mean, this like really, I guess I'm asking about the detail of how you're doing, and how where can your clients get this stuff from? Why aren't they going there? If the answer to that could literally be because I'm the person in front of them. I'm the person that happens to be sitting here right now. If that's the answer, that's fine. But be aware of that, because that means that it would be very easy for them to stop using your service and start using someone else's service if you haven't. Yeah.
So just to take on that, I mean, some of the clients, you know, that are seeking actively for, you know, let's say for one market, they just want to grow their sales, or they have a certain objective. I mean, I found way more easier to learn how they talk to each other, listen to them, listen to what they are, you know, afraid of, like let's say Q1 2019, talk to them, put that problem right in front of them, and then just not sell it to them, but educate them on the process. Because a lot of clients, I found that a lot of people that I pitch to, right, they don't know anything about this, right? And there you have an advantage, because there you can, you know, be better than anybody else, because unless you can provide value to them, because you gotta, you know, educate. I don't mean to, you know, say that in like,
it's not
tell them what you exactly do and, you know, show them the back end, but, you know, just flip the roof up and just show them like, okay, briefly this is it, but you need me because these are the people that I've seen. You know, you gotta compare, you gotta negotiate it. It's way more easier than just, you know, going on the hard stuff.
I agree. I mean, you say easier. I think there are set skills there that you've probably got that you're not acknowledging you've got. You say easier. Some people actually find it quite hard to sit down and properly listen to someone and properly listen to what, as you say, what are their problems? What are their? That's what you're there to solve. I mean, in you know, in your head, you're there to sell X, Y, or Z. You're not. You're there to not just solve their problem, but to convince them that you are the person that solves your problem. I mean, a good sort of a similar example, I suppose, is I was about to say before. I was on a PR tip. I was asked to. Someone was launching a new juice, and the contact was, "Hey, we're launching a new juice. It's an African juice." I'm like, "Okay, cool. So, yeah, we want help promoting that." And the cynic in me is like, okay, this is interesting. Why are they coming to me? Probably because I'm black. All sorts of things in my head about why this initial meeting was going on. And I went and my questions were, you say African. What do you mean African? Where in Africa? It's obviously a fairly big place. No, all over Africa. Okay. Anyway, so I went into meet and okay. So full disclosure, my second question was who owns the company, and it was two wealthy British guys who'd been to Africa on holiday and decided that that's what we wanted to do. Again, nothing wrong with that in essence, but the way they were marketing it was, hey, this wonderful African juice that's helping African farmers. You're African, you should want this to help Africa. It was all very, their target audience was, they call it the diaspora, so black people in Britain, basically. When I sat down with them, it was really obvious that they hadn't really thought any further than that, and the bottle was sort of in a Kinsey cloth, if you know what that is. It's like an African print. It was all very African and very cliched African, I would say. And so what the value, hopefully, that I convinced them that they needed me in the meeting by pointing out where some of the stuff they were doing was problematic, where just saying Africa is, if you're talking to a black audience and you're going to come out with this comes from Africa, you need to have more sense than that. You need to have more, there needs to be more focus than that. And I told them a few horror stories about things that have gone in the past and things that have been boycotted. And it wasn't me trying to, I guess I was trying to spook them a bit, but I was sort of saying, you need to be really careful on this thing you're trying to do. I would suggest that you stop calling it an African juice, for instance, and just say a juice source from Africa, or whatever. There were various things that they should have been doing, I thought, to sort of, to stop them being a bit of a PR disaster. And when I pointed out some of those things in the meeting, as you say, it was like, oh right, oh God, no, we're really glad you're here. And in my head I was thinking, like, this sale's done. I don't really even, we'll get to the rest of it and work out what I'm going to charge them and how long I'm going to do it for. But this sale's done. They desperate. They now feel, oh my God, we need this guy because he's going to help us do this thing that we're terrified of, which is having a PR disaster, which is having, black celebrities laugh at them and say, what the hell is this juice you've come out with? And it works. And this is maybe where the journalist in me kicks in. It felt wrong. It felt like, oh, I've kind of feared them into wanting me. But when I switch off that voice, I go, cool. Yeah, if anyone wants to pay, if people want to pay me, and I'm by the way, I'm my family are Jamaican, so I'm not African either, as far as, and I was saying to them, I said, you're looking at me going, oh, African. I'm not even African, historically everybody is, but I'm not African. So there was such a lack of thought behind what they were doing. And they're going, it goes really well with rum, rum. I was like, rum's more Caribbean. You're kind of getting it a bit wrong. But in their mind, it was black equals Africa equals African juice, and we'll put some drums on I'm not even joking. We'll put some drums in the. It was all, I felt like watching Black Panther once doesn't make you an African. But in terms of sort of not scaring your audience, being alert, I'll say it a different way, being aware of what your clients' concerns are and how you can solve them, working out where you fit into them solving whatever their fears or hitting what their joys are.
See, as a journalist, do you feel like you have a responsibility, or like you're accountable for like what you do? Because when you start writing, like you wanted to be a writer, obviously you've been in the industry for 25 years, right?
Yeah.
So it's turned into a job.
Yeah.
You've got opportunity, you're writing for these companies, you're getting paid, but don't you feel like you have like a responsibility to do what? I don't know.
To do what?
I don't know.
I definitely feel like I've got a responsibility. Absolutely. But yeah, this is why I say to do what. I feel like I've got a responsibility to to be being honest with what I'm writing, and that doesn't. So if I am writing, promoting something, then I should say that. That's all. I should be clear about that. It should be obvious that that's what I'm doing. But in terms of, I wouldn't like to say, for instance, with this juice, if it were poisoning people and it was nonsense and it was actually a really bad thing, then I wouldn't have been in the building with them, because I was thinking, yeah, it's a decent juice. It tastes nice. All the stuff in it seems good. What do I know? It all seems nutritious and organic and what have you. I feel like they're getting the message slightly wrong, because they're coming from a, hey, well, yeah, okay, we happen to be two white millionaires, but we went to Africa and we like Africa. Why can't we sell an African juice? That's the point. That's the point they were coming from, and I just needed to let them know that would be perceived in a different way, and that they weren't seeing it because they were just like striding around doing what they can do. Do you see what I mean? So that, I felt like I had a responsibility there, but not. But in terms of, but as a PR, do you not feel like you've got responsibility as well?
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah, okay.
It's kind of more in your face than journalism. I feel like journalism is a bit like, you've already got this image, I'm objective and truthful. Like, so there's kind of a mask you have to maintain, whereas PR's like, if I'm selling this, I'm selling this.
But you should still, but you're selling that. You're not going to say, hey, this is neat vodka. You're going to say this is water. There's still a...
Yeah, there's a truth, but you're not going to, but it depends on what you're doing, because I write, but I'm also doing PR, so I've got my own blog, but I'm just like merging kind of skills. But with like, if someone comes to you, if a company comes to you and says like, oh, so
promote
this kind of thing, promote this.
You would?
That's what you're doing. It's not a lie.
Yeah,
you can say, okay,
If people know that's what your blog is about, so you do that on your blog. If someone, that water company came and said, hey, sell this water, would you write a blog about, oh, best thing in the world is when I drink some water and it's lovely, and would you write that? Or I don't know. I don't think there's a right or wrong. I'm genuinely asking you.
I mean, in terms of like, because what I write on my blog is kind of things that I like and opinions that I have about things.
Would you write stuff that you got paid for on there?
No, because that's not my objective. To get paid for that, it's not my objective. So I have freedom in writing what I want to write. That's what I kind of mean. I'm not. My opinion and stuff can't be skirted because I need to get an income. I haven't thought about my blog like that, and I feel like that is probably where journalism's gonna have to go again. So
it stops thinking about. But to be honest,
for it to be actual journalism, I don't feel like.
Well, so I run a platform called Media Diversified, which is like a platform for Black and Asian writers. We've been going for about 5 years, and this is something we wrestle with a lot. So, like the BFI, British Film Institute, last year or maybe the year before, did a series called Black Star, which is all about black actors through the ages, and then there was black film and stuff from the 60s and 70s up to modern stuff, really interesting. They're conscious that their audience is 60-year-old white guys who can speak French and like black and white films. That's who likes the BFI. It's kind of a I'm trying not to be disparaging. It's like it's a film club. It's a niche film club for real film aficionados. Yeah, and it's got a certain type of person really that likes it. Now, for this series, they wanted to try and reach a different audience, so they came to us saying, "Hey, can you help promote it?" And we did a deal with them, and the deal was that we would, we'd tweet and we'd send it out to our audience, all that sort of stuff, but that we also did a series of 10 articles in or about the films that were coming up. So one was, Boys in the Hood, so we talked about I think we wrote something sort of talking about the changing face of urban ghetto type films. So, but the brief to the writer was write about this subject, not write about this subject, picking up Boys in the Hood, saying how great it is. And we were very obvious on that. In each of the 10 articles, he asked us to produce 10 articles. At the bottom it said, these articles were sponsored as part of the Black Star series. Here's a link to the Black Star series, yada, yada, yada. So it was all stuff that I think we would have published if someone had came to us with one of those stories. Hey, I want to write about the history of gang representation in Hollywood. And we're like, oh, that sounds interesting. Yeah, cool. But we specifically went and did that because we were promoting this series. But at the same time, you know, if someone wrote Boys in the Hood is a joke of a film, or that was rubbish, it was the worst thing that happened to black society ever, la la la, we would have published that too, and the BFI would have had to be happy with us publishing that. So, but that's just how we decided to do it, because our audience is really important to us, and it's really, it's taken a long time to build it up, and it is now valuable. It's, you know, the reason that people are coming to us offering money to promote stuff is because our audience is black and Asian and academic and politically engaged, and you know, that's an audience that other people can't get to very often. So to me, I have to respect that, and if I'm going to do something that's about money, say, yeah, this is about money, we need to make this site sustainable. This is, and if they even asked, I'd even say how much we got from it. I'd be very, but that's just my way of being with it. I don't feel like you need to pretend that you're being objective if you're not. But at the same time, like I was saying, I don't believe in objective journalism. I don't think it exists. I'm a left-wing London man who's straight, who's able-bodied, who's, you know, I've got all these things and all these experiences that have gone into making me this person who happens to be standing in front of you. But I acknowledge them. I think that the idea of objective journalism, this maybe is a controversial thing to say, I think the idea of objective journalism comes from a group of power. So there's a group of people that normally run things, and to their mind, everyone they know thinks like them, so these things are facts, but it's only because their bubble is so small that they don't know anyone who doesn't think like them. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
Do you think it has something to do with them selecting their friend, ships in a certain, narrow way, right?
Absolutely. I mean, and sometimes it's not as we've kind of gone on to recruitment in the media, but I can talk a lot about that. Sorry. Well, I mean, yeah, but it's a good point. I think that so we've had this for years, even when I was working at The Voice, which was my first newspaper. The Guardian, whoever would be like, oh, why can't we find black journalists? Oh, we really want to try and then their way of recruiting, and I know this, was they ask the senior staff who they know who might want to be a journalist. And luckily for me, Gary Young, who's a journalist, a Guardian journalist, has been, we're mates, and so he's like, oh, there's this guy Maurice, you might want to try him. That's the only reason I was in the door. But it's because, if you say to your already homogenous group of people, go and find people, people know people like them, people know the kids of people like them, and that doesn't mean exclusively, but if you say to me, go and find 10 people most people I'm going to turn up have a relatively similar, they're either going to be journalists, people I work with, they're going to be family members and friends, they're going to be similar to me. So what happens in journalism is the call goes out, and again, without any disrespect to these people, you end up with an Emily and you end up with the nephews and nieces and grandchildren and godchildren of the people that already work there. Yeah. And chances are they're from the same background, and chances are, and it's not about race, to be honest. It's not because I think that the white kids that I grew up on my estate, they've got no chance either. They're not getting in either. So it's not just to me, it's not a black and white thing. It's who's like you, who's similar. Yeah. And I wouldn't even be that. I'm not even that critical of the people that do that, because if you say to me who do you want to give an opportunity to, the first person I'm thinking of is my daughter, because she's my daughter. I don't blame anyone for using their skills to help the people in their family, but as an organisation, hopefully you should be able to go, hang on, we're literally just replicating ourselves.
I think it's the BBC, right?
Yeah, big time. Although the BBC, I think, has probably got a bit more diversity than other places. And I'm only going on when I've worked with them, and anecdotally, it seems that there's a bit more going on there. because they have, they always have to renew their charter every 10 years or whatever it is. So they always have to think, oh, how are we more this? How are we fulfilling our aims? Anyway, sorry, I've been stuck on this slide for a while, but that's okay. The whole point is talking around this stuff. We talked a little bit about the maths already. I won't go too much into this, but it's just being really really looking holistically at the costs, because like I say, the things you almost certainly won't think of when you're sort of pricing up or thinking, oh, what's my day rate or whatever at the beginning is what do I cost, and what does my phone and my Wi-Fi and the journey I took to get here, all of that, the whole thinking of it holistic rather than just like, well, I'm free, I'm not charging myself, so yeah, I'll do it for 50 quid, that's all right. You've got to think about all the other bits and pieces, and as well, I think that this thinking matters, because if you don't get your costs right, you might well, you might well be cheaper than everyone else. You might think, you know what, I've done the SWOT analysis, I've done all the thinking, everyone out there is already doing what I do, there's nothing new that I'm bringing to it, so I'm just going to undercut everybody. You could think that. I would argue that, and I don't want to be negative, I would argue if you've done that and you thought, oh my God, there's nothing special about what I do, all the way down the line, then why are you doing that? But that's just my take on it. Why be another Me Too business if your only way of getting business is to try and undercut everyone else? There's a reason that other people aren't doing that. Unless you found some way of getting whatever it is, whatever product, whatever service cheaper than anyone else, there's a reason that everyone else charges something different, and it's because that's what you need to survive. You can say, oh, well, I'm living at my mum's, so it doesn't cost me anything. At some point, your mum's going to go, well, what's going on here? It's not free. It's just free to use. So it's not. It's trying to think holistically about all the. And I think that happens with other companies too. Trying to think about all the other little bits and pieces. And what about when I go on holiday? And what about when this? And what about when I'm not there? Because you look like you want to ask me, Sophie.
No.
Know that Toby at The Guardian doesn't like this kind of story, or that the Evening Standard doesn't like anything like stuff that's critical of Theresa May, because Gordon Brown, Gideon got George Osborne. George Osborne got fired by her, so he hates her. But I need to know that. Okay, this story is bashing Theresa May. It's not being too nice about Jeremy Corbyn. Therefore, I think the Standard will go for it. It's having a real, as much as you can, a real in-depth understanding of who you're selling stuff to. So I think these are the bits that again, I left branding and marketing and the website stuff for later, because I think if you're working in marketing and comms, that's the field, that's the course that you're on. So I imagine these are the bits that feel most natural and actually most enjoyable to you, just because rather than, up until now I've been talking about what's external, how are you perceived, what are you selling, this is about your company, how do you want it to be? And often when we're talking about one person companies, which by the way obviously with freelance, you're doing it on your own, but when it comes to a company, I'm a real advocate for trying or being aware of the bits that you can't do, and being really honest about what you can, where your strengths are and where your strengths aren't. And so for instance, my again with the one with the training company, just because it's the most obvious one to me, she's brilliant at doing the training, brilliant at going, oh well, there's this thing I don't understand, I'm going to go away and learn it, and now I'm an expert at it. That's amazing, I would say. But the downside of that is that, so she learned about doing her account, she learned about doing everything. She's running the entire company with very little money going elsewhere. I don't know that her learning to do accounts is necessarily the best way for things to go. I would have said, find an accountant or someone to do that you absolutely trust and believe in. Get them to do it. Why? I think you focus on the things that you are really good at and shine at those rather than trying to mitigate the things that you're not so good at. I would rather buy those things in, but that's because there's certain aspects that I hate. Yeah.
Just a question. Do you think there is it's essential to draw up like a long-term plan whenever you are, or just go with the flow? Because sometimes it's unpredictable, right?
It's very unpredictable. I think that's what stops people doing those longer-term plans. I think so what makes sense for me is to go, okay, this is what I'm doing right now, this is what I'm offering, this is where the company is now. How will that be long-term? But being really conscious that, tomorrow I might meet someone who goes blah, and it just changes my whole way of thinking. They open up a whole thing that I hadn't, obviously you can't imagine what you haven't imagined, but a whole thing that you haven't, and I'm flexible and willing to move into that. I think it's important to have almost an aim of the company, and now I think which it sounds a bit weird when you're talking about a company whose job is to make money, rather than a community interest company or something, or a charity or something like that. So the organisation, like the media platform I run, is a charity. We know that our main aim is to diversify the media. Now, whatever that looks like is what it looks like. So if we come to a client who wants us to, I don't know, sell laptops, we know that hasn't got any input into what we're doing. So we say, great, that's really interesting. You know what, I personally will take that, not as part of this company, I'll help you with that. But the company is for diversifying the media. Really, that's what it's. I think it's slightly more complicated, more or less complicated when it's an actual company and the job of the company is to make money. You could say, is this valuable to me? Do we have the skills? Do we have the things in place? What's the opportunity cost? What am I gonna miss? If I go off down this slightly different route now, what things am I missing? Does that matter? Of course there's flexibility. I think when I say long-term plan, I do think it's important, but I think all that needs to be is, can I do this sustainably? What I'm doing now, can I do that going forward? And if not, then how long can I do it for? If being clear about where you are now, or it's not sustainable now, but I need to get to a point where I'm making this much money, then it will be fine. As long as you've worked out all of that. If something comes along that makes that faster, makes you get to the bit where you're earning money quicker, great. Of course you're going to say yes to it and do it. That's fine. But yeah, the plan isn't a rule book. It's to show that what you're doing now can work. Because I think often, like I say, you're just charging along, doing what you're doing. You haven't actually stepped back to think, hang on, what happens when I get sick, or whatever. You haven't thought about anything other than counting the money. You're happy with that, but that's not there are pitfalls there. I think so. Yeah, I think you have a plan, but it's loose. And again, with the marketing, I mean, this is all stuff we've kind of spoken around, because I've not been very linear in my delivery of this. But again, the marketing, once you know who you're selling and what you're selling, who you're selling to and what you're selling them, the how should be more straightforward. Really, it's you know where your audience are, you know where your audience are, you know what they want, you know what you're selling them. It's then hopefully just a case of how do you work, how do you get your information in front of them. Are there particular sites, are there particular newspapers? Do you need to hire a wonderful PR to come in and help you, attract those newspapers? Whatever it might be, you get through to them. I'm conscious that is it?
They have to go.
Oh, okay.
They have to go to
Yeah. Nice to meet you. That's okay. I suddenly thought, oh, are we finishing it? I got this. All right. I think, and again with the website, I think these are the bits that I can only talk for me, but I think they're too. These are the bits that are attractive to us. If we work in comms, if we work in media, even if we can't build websites, the idea of putting it together, that's a sexy bit. That's fun. I've sat down with lots of groups of young entrepreneurs, and the bits that they're always excited about, I think, if they're coming from I would say we're from a similar from similar industries, they're always into the marketing, the branding, the building their websites. These are the fun bits that we like doing. But they do have to be done, and this is why I've included this stuff. But I don't, who the hell am I pushing 50 going to be talking to you a lot about how to do your digital and how to do your socials and stuff? You'll do that, and you don't need any help from me really. Okay, so you're there now. You know what you're doing. The website exists. You've got a marketing plan. You know who you're marketing to and how, and all this sort of stuff. I think it's still the case that your first clients, and this is true of whether you're freelance or whether you're a company, your first clients is going to be someone that is likely to be someone that you have some sort of link to. It's likely to be someone that you've worked with or studied with or has come across in some way. It could be just someone, in your day job you've done X and you've spotted that, oh, they're going to need a lot more than this. Whatever it might be, it's someone that you've probably already got a relationship with. And the reason I say that is I just think it's really hard, unless you're offering something that nobody else is offering. Like, okay, so the guy at the back with the e-game marketing thing, if that doesn't exist, then it might be someone might go, oh, I never thought of that. Yeah, great, I'll buy that. If it's someone else is coming to me offering PR, as like that, as is that swanky agency in Soho, as is that, but why are they choosing you above all of that? It might be that you're just brilliant. It might be that you have an amazing, charismatic personality that people just fall in love with you and they meet you, and it could be that. But chances are, to be honest, if you're getting in that front door, it's because you have some sort of link to them. You can't even point to any work that you've done at that point, unless it's. So I suppose if you're going freelance and you've been working at a newspaper, so I guess that works. So when I turned up. When I started pitching for the first time to publications, I could go, yeah, and here's some links to my track record. That stuff did exist. But if you're coming in cold, it's likely to be contacts, family, friends. It really is. And there's nothing wrong with that. It felt like a bit of a cheat when the first sort of clients. You?
Oh, no.
I know you. Sorry. Yeah, it felt like a bit of a cheat, but. I think I honestly believe that people buy from people. People buy from the person that they know. That's it's always been a rule of business, and it still is. Once you've done that, once you've gone past your first clients, and there's nothing. You should always be trying to get your clients to be long term. You should always be showing them that the stuff you do is so incredible that. How did they ever exist without you? But if even if it is, this is just a one-off job and you've done it, you're obviously super aware that people move on. That the idea of anyone having a job for life and being in a set place for 20, 30 years is really rare now. So chances are the person that you sold your first ever whatever to. Your first ever marketing support, your first whatever, has now moved on to a different company. Then you keep friends with them, you keep in touch, and then they get you in there too. I'm always amazed at how quickly that stuff goes. You go from, well, okay, I've got this thing, I have no idea where I'm even going to start pitching. You get one or two in, you do those well. I can't sort of emphasise that enough. It's not just right. Tick this box, move on, send in my invoice. Really important. To overservice. That's probably a dirty word in marketing, but in business. But your first clients, you want them to adore you. You want them to leave there thinking, oh my God, whenever I have a need for this thing, that's the person I'm going to. They're, whether it's just about your customer service or the actual stuff that you deliver, it's your best marketing, I'd say, is your first few clients. You're going to get stuff because of what you've already done. And as well, making sure, and this is something that, like I was saying before, I think I've alluded to before, once you're in and amongst it, a company, even a company, whether it's doing well or not, it can be really all-encompassing. It's your thing. This is your company that you've thought of. Maybe you and a friend or you whatever. But this is your thing. It feels. If I even now I'm thinking about my companies that I set up with Tony way back when. I'm emotional about them. They feel like my child, and I have to, make my child feel okay about the fact that I'm saying that a company feels like her, but it does. It feels really important and really heartfelt to you. So it's easy just to. I mean, I was definitely working 7 days a week. I was definitely working every evening. I definitely let all sorts of social things fall by the wayside because to me this is what I'm doing and I was passionate about it. But what there wasn't in that time was any time to stop and step back and go, well, hang on, okay, this is going well. Why is this going well? Why isn't that going well? What's the long-term issues here? What are the challenges? And one of the things that I would say, so with the company that I set up with Tony, we, like I said, we spent the first few months just not really having a clue what we should be doing. We eventually got some work with the government, giving them some consultancy on some digital program that they had. And we were able to turn that, it was supposed to be come and earn a couple of grand and whatever, we were able to turn that into about, I think the last year we invoiced them was 240 grand for the two of us, and there's only two of us in an office. So we're sitting there thinking, whoa, this is really going well, this is brilliant. But, if I'm honest, why I'm putting this review thing in there, and Tony and I was going, mate, okay, this is nuts. This is like, we're talking about buying houses and everything's getting all exciting, but what happens when this contract runs out? Because this is a set term thing. Where's the next thing that comes in? We're taking all sorts of staff on and costs. How do we cope with these if this thing stops? Or what are we doing to make sure there's something else put in the pipeline? Neither of us did that because we were too excited and too chasing the stuff that we were doing, which we were proud of. We're like, wow, we're doing great work and we're doing it all on our own. We're our own company. To me, there's nothing. You might say there's nothing like your own thing. There's nothing like waking up in the morning and going, I'm running my company that I've kind of come up with. That it all depended on me, and I've done that. And there's no one telling me whether I can't go on holiday or whether I, all of that feels incredible. It really does. I can't say how incredible all of that stuff felt to me, but I felt you need to work in there a bit where you're stopping and looking at what you're doing and really, really being honest and celebrating all the achievements, but also being conscious of the things that you're doing wrong. There are the things that we get wrong and we just go, well, no one even noticed that, and probably no one did, but we should have had the little alarm bell going, okay, why has that happened, and what does that mean for the future, and how do we end, and I mean, in the end, I think what happened was that contract did dry up, and it put us both in a situation of, so all this money that we had coming in isn't going to come in anymore. We've not put anything else in place. We could have just downscaled and gone, right, okay, let's go back to where we were and build that up again. We could have done that, but I think that we then had a taste of, drawing decent cash that we weren't really willing to let go. So, and all of that, and we sit down and talk about it now and kind of laugh at me. God, what were we thinking? Because we were in the throes of young love, and that young love was the company. I'm not conscious we've got sort of 15 minutes left. Is that right?
Should probably wrap up in the next 5 minutes or so.
5 minutes.
But yeah, just
To
we've
give
gone
people
with that.
time.
We usually have a bit of a break and.
I'm sorry, I've just
Has
rolled right through,
sustained.
haven't I? Yeah.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, it's fine because
Yeah.
we started late.
Okay.
But I'm just conscious of the fact that there's been sustained attention.
It has,
quite a
yes.
long period of time,
Thank you
so-
for that. Sorry, I did mean to make it more questiony and stuff. And thank you for the stuff that's coming. So, I mean, are there where are people at with their companies and their freelance and whatever? Has anyone got specific queries or?
That's a good question. Well, they should be at the idea stage right now.
Yeah.
They're drawing up their proposals.
Oh, okay. Do you actually? They're physically launching stuff.
No, it's at the moment just at the idea concept stage.
Okay.
And then that's built on throughout the module.
Nice.
So we have them business plans.
Yeah.
We've got a Dragon's Den style thing in a couple of weeks.
Okay.
I have to pitch their ideas. But
For funding or just for?
No. At the moment, it's to refine
For
their
viability.
ideas.
Yeah. Okay.
So they should be at the, I hope, at the stage where they at least have one idea at the forefront of their minds.
Nice. Okay.
So
I mean, even that's.
everyone's at different.
I mean, if anyone's got questions out, that's that's what I'm here for. But
Yeah.
I mean, even that, when we were starting, when I was going through, I was at City. I went to Middlesex actually for my postgrad. I went to City to do my journalism, and there was no real talk of freelance or setting up or running your own thing. It wasn't. I don't think that was even that viable then. Now I think it's almost a no-brainer. Every journalist I know, whatever they're doing, is also their own company. They're also, I know that Gary, writes for the Guardian. He also writes for the Nation or something, and he's writing books, and he's got his own umbrella company that runs his various things like that. So it's much more. Now I'm glad that's actually part of what you're learning and studying. I think it's the way things are. I think eventually, we're not far off every single human turning 18 and being their own company straight away. I think that's the direction that we're in, and then you buy in and out of people's companies. But
I agree. Are there any questions though?
Just about how you would have reviewed that business with Tony, I think you're saying that.
how would we have done?
How
Yeah.
often, where kind of did you slip up?
Yes, so I honestly think it was because so much of our business. At first, we were, we'd write a little article for so and so, and write an article there. It was kind of a news agency, I guess. This was a totally different thing, and while it was lucrative, and it really, like I say, 240 grand a year, that's money that I wasn't planning on making. I didn't think we were going to be making that much that quickly, but. If we were properly reviewing it and being honest, we're going, okay, this is amazing that it's going for this long. It's got a limited shelf life, and once it's done, it's done. So unless I wouldn't have invested quite so. Like we took on staff, we moved to bigger offices, we did stuff that to me we should have been doing if we had a long-term set guaranteed bit of money. Instead we were doing it because of the money we've got now, and isn't this great? And when they come in, we want to be in our nice suits, we want to look really good, and we're doing stuff that I think was about show. I don't know. I mean, Tony would probably argue that, hey, you need to look the part, and I think there was a conversation there that we just didn't have. Instead, we just went, let's just keep churning the money. This is great. This is really fun. So I think we could have done with stepping back and just going, okay. So if there's that, where do we get more of that type of work then? Let's actively, if we're pivoting away from producing articles to producing consultancy, which to be honest that is what we've done. That's what I do now. Then let's do that consciously rather than by accident. I feel like we stumbled into something good by accident, but didn't then. I mean, we earned as much as we could have done, I think, from that one project, but we could and should have been thinking, what's similar to this? Where can we bring our skills in? Because it was the same stuff that, to be honest, that people were buying into. It was like they wanted to. It was a digital inclusion project, and they thought about disability. They thought about various things. They hadn't really thought about migrants, people with different language skills. About there were things that they'd missed that we were able to bring into it. But that's a pretty transferable thing. We could have been offering that all over the place, and it kind of is what I do now. So if we thought about it and taken a step back from the money and taken a step back from it's going great now, but what happens next year? What happens the year after? If we've done more of that, then I think, I don't know. And it's not like it failed and we all, it just got to a bit where once the money stopped, I felt like it brought in a couple of tensions, a couple of like, oh, well, I want to be doing this, well, I want to be doing that. And kind of we just went our separate ways and kind of ended up running. We ended up running two very similar companies to each other. It just, when I think of it now, it just blows my mind. It's like we were like double paying contracts on printing, double paying contracts on because we were, right, I'm going my way now, and it's just like, no, it made things go the wrong way, basically, is what I'd say. I'd like to have stepped back and worked out where our futures were.
Okay. Any other questions?
What are some of the ways you've managed your time then? Because I know when you're running your own business and whatnot, you got to kind of adapt it to your life. As in, when you work, you can just go there from away from that mental side, you know, and then when it's your own business, you got to adapt it around your actual life. As in, you know, you can't just separate two things. Sorry, I should go.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying. I think it's a good point. I don't know that my way is a good way, if I'm honest. So what I do, I don't think of my social time and my work time, and because to me it's all makes me sound very unpopular, but it's all part of the same thing. I think of when I'm awake to when I'm asleep is my work time, but how am I dividing that up? And I do think actually, and this is what I don't do enough of, I think it's important to go, this is my leisure time, this is me not working, this is me hanging with mates, going to the gym, whatever I'm doing, it's not, this is my time. Honest, is when you are freelance, especially when you're freelance alone, if I'm not doing something, it's not getting done. And I've always got I've got on my Trello a list of stuff that I need to do. And if I'm sitting around at home like watching Netflix or something, I've always got in my head going, you could be doing a bit more of that. You could be finishing some of this. And I think it's to be honest, I can't sit here and tell everyone, well, don't do that stuff. Make sure because some of that stuff you do need to do, and I could probably do with getting on with it a bit more. But I do think it's important though to carve out, okay, I'm away for this week, or even I can't afford to go away, but I'm not working for this week. I'm just gonna nurture, because your social stuff matters. You know, your friends and relationships, and I've lost relationships because of working too hard, being too into the things that I'm trying to do. I'm not sure if I regret that, because that probably means they were the wrong relationships, but that's a whole other thing. I do think it's important to have your time carved.
Just got a quick question. When you're discussing, when you're getting work, whatever that might be, contracts from the government or, a commission from the Guardian, as a journalist and a trained journalist, how do you work out the finite points of those contracts? Do you get in a lawyer on a, I'm just thinking of the cost of a lawyer to
Yeah.
and is that appropriate or not? And where, because if you are starting your own business,
Yes.
and you are going to be having clients and you're providing a service, that should be under some sort of contract. And
Of course it should, yeah.
How did you wing that as well?
Yeah. So what I found is usually, especially if it's producing articles for the Guardian or whatever, there's a contract in place there already, which they have for all their other freelancers. I read through that, go, sounds about right.
So they provide that to freelance.
When it's something more bespoke, so like the government consultancy stuff, or I mean with that, I guess it's going to depend on the size of the contract. It'll make you decide, okay, is it worth me getting a lawyer to just read through this?
And did you, do you mind me asking?
With the government stuff we didn't, but we didn't need to do it. It was never supposed to grow as big as it ended up being. So each bit where they said, actually, can you run a London pilot of this? I'm thinking, oh my God, that's loads. Right, we can. But to be honest, we didn't have a specific. I guess it's different with the government as well. A bit of us was like, this is a government. They're not going to go bust and disappear.
No, of course they're probably not going to sue you either. And
they're probably not going to sue us, and we're as long as we do the right stuff. But if I was talking about a corporate, then I would have expected.
Did you have to get a lawyer?
Yeah, although if they're the bigger partner, they normally they're going to be in control. They're controlling the money. They're probably going to control the contract as well. But I would make sure I've read it, and if there are bits in it that I don't understand, or hang on, is this tying me into? Don't just assume that that probably doesn't apply to me. It's the contract that you're dealing with, so what's there does apply to you.
And if you really did need a lawyer, then you would price it in, wouldn't you?
Exactly that. Yeah. If it's
I'm just thinking about it's a good idea to build relationships with people who are studying law or media law as well. You know?
that can never hurt. I'm not being funny. They're gonna, at the very least, they're going to be really rich soon. So
Yeah, exactly.
at the very least, keep friends with them.
So can we say thank you?
Yeah.